You are live. We are live. Hi, Doc Martin for KRAZTV.com here at the Zero channel. That's right, the adult side. Well, it's another great book. A little hefty, but really tells a lot more stories about Lincoln. And this is called Lincoln's Spies, Their Secret War to Save a Nation by Douglas Waller. He's also an author of Disciples and Wild Bill Donovan, who I don't know is. Dennis Waller is a former correspondent for Newsweek and Time. He's authored 6 books on the military and intelligence, including the bestsellers Wild Bill Donovan, The Big Red, The Commandos, and the critically acclaimed biographies Disciples and A Question of Loyalty. Waller lives in Raleigh, North Carolina with his wife, Judy. Excellent book. It says, in the shadows of America's Civil War, a conflict raised out of sight, the war of dangerous espionage, covert operations, and tangled intrigue. From the tense days before Abraham Lincoln's inauguration of 1861 to Lee's surrender at Appomattox in 1865, veteran journalist Douglas Waller delivers a riveting account of the heroes and the scoundrels who fought in secret to save the Union. Now, this is mostly about Union spies, but however, they do cover some Confederate spies, and some of these spies were women, several of them, in fact. Like Van Loo, she lived in Richmond and tried to send Pinkerton. He started a detective agency. He turned out to be McClellan's go-to guy and spy, but he also conferred. Then there was a guy named Baker who also ran another spy operation for Lincoln in Washington. So when Pinkerton left after McClellan finally got fired, they had Baker run the rest of it. But Pinkerton stayed involved. But he involved many spies, and they had to go to Canada sometimes, and they sent agents everywhere, and they gathered troop enforcements and fortifications and supply lines. And there's not a picture in this book, but it doesn't really matter because we've loved Lincoln for a long time and some of the trials. And so is Elizabeth Van Loo. Let's see. Here's some of the people. John Babcock, first hired by Pinkerton. He became George Sharp's top spy. Joseph Stannard Baker. He was a cousin who worked for Lafayette Baker. Lafayette Baker, a special provost marshal under War Secretary Edwin Stanton. He ran a Secret Service operation in Washington. Let's see, Elizabeth Van Loo. I just so many. Alan Pinkerton, head of Chicago Detective Agency. He served as General McClellan's intelligence chief. George Sharp, head of the military information. He served as intelligence chief for Generals Hooker, Meade, and Grant. And Elizabeth Van Loo, daughter of a wealthy merchant. She ran the spy ring in Richmond. So there were Union officials from the Montgomery Blair, the Postmaster General. Confederate agents. There was John Wilkes Booth, who was Lincoln's assassin. Belle Boyd, Confederate spy supplying intelligence to Stonewall Jackson. Rose O'Neal Greenhow ran a Confederate spy ring in Washington. David Harrell, one of the conspirators in the Lincoln assassination. Thomas Jordan, a Confederate officer who oversaw Rose O'Neal's greenhouse spying in Washington. And so it's just a fascinating book. There is little maps. A lot of this started around Maryland because it had slaves, but I think eventually it was counted in the North, and then Tennessee barely didn't want them to secede, but they just barely did. So it was really a convoluted bunch of stuff. But we got this book, Tucson, Pima County Library. You got to keep reading because history's great. And well, we've done a lot on Lincoln and history of the Civil War and why things happened. A lot of black people were spies too, but they were killed outright by the South. So anyway, thanks for watching and listening to this rant. But get the book, Lincoln Spies, Their Secret War to Save a Nation by Douglas Waller. If you can, support us over at KRAZTV.com. And yes, keep reading. Some things are very important. Some things like this are part of history. You determine your importance. Keep reading. Joe Channel.